please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Hello everyone. As many of you will know, I am a bit of a dickhead. Hardly a surprise. I'm a pretentious sounding snobbish Englishman. But being reasonably proud of being English means I'm allowed to, by birthright, to dunk on every aspect of Britishness. This will include those who turn their back on my country. I hold, and am consistently going to continue to hold, a level of disdain for Prince Harry, who is a massive contradiction of a human being. The type that, quite frankly, solely does it because he desperately wants to be centre of attention, not realising that all he has to offer is crapping on his own family, which is quite amusing because while he has built his own little family of his own, nothing wrong with that. But the level of entitlement, desperation to make sure his children have royal titles they don't deserve, nor does he for that matter, since he has essentially walked away from all of this, while simultaneously selling every aspect of what he knows about that to the highest bidder, not realizing again that once he has done that, he has nothing left. Well, except for all the money he has been paid up front by Netflix, Spotify and any other idiot platform that was dumb enough to give him mountains of cash to get that story. A one-trick pony that cashes out. A one-trick pony that could have had a life of many, many tricks and ponies had he simply not, well, been so fragile. Perhaps seen a psychiatrist and not broadcast his therapy sessions in a book. The reason we're talking about Harry today is because Harry has been losing. Harry keeps losing. Ever since the release of Spare and getting memed on a number of TV shows, Harry is not looking very good. He and Meghan's approval rating is actually going down. This in turn is quite tickle-worthy because neither of them are doing particularly great, yet they are trying to make it seem like they are. One's a fraud who records her parts of a podcast separately to the guests because why fraternize with the subordinates, am I right? And then Harry, I'll be honest, he's busy trying to play victim with journalists, as if anyone is remotely surprised that they have no integrity in the first place, journalists that is. That's not to say Harry has any integrity either, of course not. But let's face it, there's only one thing more desperate than him trying desperately to get that money and that acknowledgement from the tabloids, and that would be the few remaining hair follicles desperately clinging to his head. On the 27th of July 2023, Prince Harry was due to be back in the witness box at the High Court. This has concerned some people close to the royal family, some of their friends adding that the royals would do their best to avoid being distracted by Harry's legal battles, with a family friend telling the Daily Beast, no idea if they're credible or not, everyone in the family completely accepts that Harry is a private citizen, that's why he's called a prince, and can do what he likes without reference to the family. That doesn't mean they have to like it. Of course, they are massively irritated by the prospect of more blockbuster Harry trials, but they have been expecting it. There is also the defamation case against the Mail, don't forget. Their goal is to just keep plugging away and not get distracted by any of it. Another source said that Harry or Meghan making court appearances, publishing further books or making films was now widely considered inevitable, and that the policy of not commenting or reacting had been judged a success by the family. A strategy that I can agree with. It's not that they're putting their head in the sand, it's that they are letting him show his hand. Show his hand and respond when you need to respond. But in reality, the more Harry does, because less is supposed to be more, in this case, he's putting it all out there, when he can, for money. By showing his hand early, he is showing what he really is. A grifter. He is showing what he really is. Fragile and egotistical, narcissistic, desperate. He wants to be validated, so he can continue to push whatever message he thinks will make him the most money. So, grift is accurate. The reactions from those friends came after a senior judge ruled on Thursday that Harry can proceed with a key part of his ongoing legal action against the news group newspapers, NGN. They are the publishers of British tabloid The Sun. Harry can proceed to trial with allegations that The Sun and the now shuttered News of the World used unlawful information gathering techniques such as blagging which involves tricking third parties into disclosing confidential information about targets to get stories on him. However, not everything is working out for Harry in this respect, because it does swing in roundabouts here. He may get his way on one thing, but he isn't on something else. And that's quite important. You see, one of his other accusations involves phone hacking, yeah? Harry's allegation was that there was a secret agreement about phone hacking made between the royals and NGN, which hid information from him, which a judge in turn said did not reach the necessary threshold of plausibility, and that no witness or documentary evidence supports the claim, and none have been offered. Therefore, the phone hacking claims against the Sun have been thrown out. Now, it should be pointed out, while NGN hail this as a victory, a former British Member of Parliament affiliated with the hacked-off pressure group called Evan Harris told the Daily Beast that the judgment was a major strategic setback for NGN because it was all or nothing for them, who wanted to get rid entirely of the claims being made by Harry and Hugh Grant to avoid a court showdown. Evan Harris also pointed out that NGN paid out millions of pounds, allegedly also a rather large settlement to Prince William, precisely to avoid being dragged. An independent observer, Mark Stevens, a media lawyer, partner at firm Howard Kennedy, told the Daily Beast he believed it could be argued the newspapers had shaded it over Harry, given that more of the case has been thrown out than left in, and it was not possible for Harry to dress the judgment up as a victory. But echoing Harris's argument, he said the paper's aim was to get the whole thing thrown out and they have failed. That is a problem for them because the newspapers have to win everything to win overall. Harry only has to show one example of unlawful news gathering to win overall, which there's some truth to, but thankfully the court of public opinion likes to look at this and go, bitch, no, because you can still win this one little bit here, and they did do something wrong there if you win it. However, you still got to prove it first. It does not change the fact you sued them for all these other accusations that have been thrown out because of a lack of plausible evidence. But there is another thing here. You see, in the written judgment, the judge said the trial might take place in 2024 or 2025. Now, this can be considered quite annoying to many people, myself included, because I firmly believe while evidence gathering is important, that is a huge window of evidence gathering. Huge. And I get wanting to be thorough, but this seems a bit excessive. But additionally, there is the complaint, the belief, that actually this exceeded the statute of limitations, which in the case of this is 6 years. It is believed though that Harry didn't know, or would not have known, could not have known, when he filed his complaint that it had exceeded, therefore his accidental ignorance would have been the reason why this could be brought forward. I felt that that came across as a bit disingenuous, and comes across as a form of preferential treatment just to give someone a chance to save face. But since a vast majority of everything's been thrown out so far, it doesn't look that great. The blagging thing should be interesting because people blag all the time. How you prove that with some form of evidence, I'm not entirely sure. So how the royals proceed, according to the Mail on Sunday, is that state visits are back in business, something which wasn't really as much of a thing in the later years for Queen Elizabeth. Charles, Camilla, William, Kate, they took up those responsibilities. Of course, Harry did as well when he was part of it. This is because, now that they're back in business doing it, Charles and Camilla's good health should be maximised to help the brand, to help the United Kingdom, because that's what it does. The ambassadorial work they do does wonders for trade. And it has been at this point a decade since a reigning monarch in this country has actually gone overseas to do those long-haul travels. The issue with that is, while the king himself is trying to ignore it, not to give it a second thought, other countries and their media aren't so generous in that ignoring, right? Especially countries within the Commonwealth that might want to leave, or those who claim to want to leave but don't, or countries that perhaps see how the United Kingdom has treated Harry and Meghan because we don't like them, and thought, well, if you're like that really, we shouldn't deal with you. Then again, after how the King of England treated President Joe Biden, you should be bloody lucky, America, that our king was as patient as he was, because Biden did not look like he belonged anywhere other than a care home. If anything, he showed a remarkable kindness in showing him where to go, although not holding his hand to walk up a couple steps was, yeah, that was the right thing to do, because if he fell over it would have been funnier. Man trips over a sandbag, God's sake. I should add an important thing now. My disdain towards Prince Harry has nothing to do with the legal case against any tabloid, and I do not support any of the tabloids at the same time. I am intrigued to see how it plays out, and I am trying my best to be as objective as I can be when somebody's having many claims they make against a tabloid thrown out, leaving just blagging. Tabloids have virtually no trust with the people because they are corrupt institutions. Of course they are. They're solely interested in making money and not reporting on the news because they're businesses. So is there such a thing as journalistic integrity? No, of course not. You can say the same for someone like myself. With all the sources that I cite, I have a bias. It is important to acknowledge that and to encourage people to make their own decisions, which is why when this goes to a court, it must be decided by those in that room, and we must respect that decision. Do I think the Sun or NGN get out of this scot-free? No, of course not. I think they have done something wrong, of course I do. Do I think that vindicates Harry? Of course not. He's had to make up so many claims to find one that sticks. It's like he threw glue and glitter at a wall, and whatever stuck was the claim. Everything else that fell doesn't matter. Inconsequential, irrelevant, dismissible, even though fabricated is fabricated, therefore lie. If someone is willing to make these lies up, you have to wonder how far someone is willing to push that level of lie or that level of delusion to try and get something on someone else. Granted, I do believe he had something, but it wasn't plausible. It wasn't enough, it wasn't good enough. And that's another point. Making sure your claims stack up to any level of intellectual scrutiny, and scrutiny of courts, investigators, prosecutors, and defense who have to defend against this, is key and fundamentally important. The process must be respected, but it doesn't stop Harry being a colossal bellend who is solely doing this to cash in, because if he wins the blagging, he can use that for more documentaries, more podcasts, more books, which just shows you how far someone is willing to go to try and make extra money. And I get it. He needs to cash in on something, and he's basically using his dead mother as a way of doing it. I thought royalty was supposed to have a level of class. Apparently, less was missing from that word. And he really should give back the Sussex title. I was born in Crawley. You are not my duke, alright, bitch? Or your lobcock of a wife. Give them back and stop cashing in on it.
British? No, I'm Irish. Yeah, no, British. No. Oh, that's a big difference. Yeah,